In this final stretch of the series, I'm going to break down the send effects and master bus treatments of Clark Kent Jobs' First Time. Before I get into that, I do want to mention there's a group of tracks I've left unaddressed. These are synth tracks that are fairly buried in the mix and effectively function as pads. That is, tracks used to fill out the sound of the mix. Here's what they sound like on their own, and then with the other tracks added in. The send effects are surprisingly simple in this song. First, Miko's sending the snare to the Waves Renaissance reverb, or the R verb, using a medium dark plate. Notice that while the snare is sending pre-fader at full volume, the fader of the send channel is pulled way down. As such, this treatment is very subtle and mainly being done to give the snare some width. Quick note, in case you're a Cubase user, you can tell that the send is pre-fader because of the teal color. Sends default to the post-fader position, which will show as a darker blue color, but it can be changed to pre-fader by clicking on this button. And so you can better hear the reverb, I'm going to solo it and boost its level. After that, I'll drop the fader back down to -16 with the snare track soloed, and then I'll put in the other tracks. The only other send effect is another instance of the Waves H delay, and this is the same plugin I showed you in the last video, again being applied to the vocal lead group. In the previous video, the H delay was effectively set to 16th notes. This one is set to a dotted quarter, which effectively is a dotted eighth, since the tempo is double of what the song actually is. Also, no attenuation is being applied here. These two differences will make the delay more apparent than the one being inserted directly onto the vocal lead group. Also note that this part is being automated, so it's sending during the choruses and otherwise off, with exception to a couple of small parts in the verses and the bridge, where it's being used to emphasize certain words and phrases.
Do you remember the last time you did something for the first time? Can you remember the exact when you did something for the first time? If every day like, make sure tomorrow's the next day you do something for the first time. Be our stop. Soon it's gonna be over. Stop! Soon it's gonna be over. Stop wasting your. Soon it's gonna be over. Stop!
Moving on to the master bus, the first effect being applied is the Waves SSL master bus stereo compressor. At this point, the snare is a bit too loud in the mix, and that's actually being done on purpose. The SSL compressor is basically ducking the whole mix on the hard drum hits, taking off around 2 to 3 decibels at a light 2-to-1 ratio. This helps the snare pop in the mix and makes the drums sound larger than life. Notice that the slowest attack and fastest release are being used. This lets the transients through while quickly bringing up the level of the quieter parts. Following the compressor is the FabFilter Pro Q EQ. It's being used to boost the lows in the mid or center channel. Here, that's 500 Hz and down, and it's also boosting the highs at 500 Hz and up in the sides. Separating the boosts into mid and side channels like this helps improve the separation and provides for more of a 3D sounding mix. Following the EQ is the Waves C6 multiband compressor. This is being used to tame the dynamics within specific frequency bands. The most compression is being applied to the lows at 100 Hz and then to the highs between 2 to 16 kHz. Multiband compression tightens up the overall sound and sets the song up for a louder overall mix. That said, you'll notice that the mix is quieter overall with the plugin in, and that's simply because no makeup gain is being applied. During playback, you can see how the C6 is affecting the various bands. Basically, the more downward the orange line moves, the more compression that's being applied to that specific frequency. Next up is another instance of the SSL master bus compressor. Here, a higher 4:1 ratio is being used with a slightly faster attack setting and auto-release engaged. While the first instance was used to effectively make the mix respond to the drum transients, this one is being used to tame the overall dynamic range. You'll see it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 decibels off in gain reduction. All of this gain reduction being applied on the master bus from the two SSLs and the C6 are designed to reduce the overall dynamic range of the song, which provides for a louder master after the limiter is applied, which you'll see in a few minutes. Up next is the NLS channel strip, which you've seen applied to each group channel in the previous videos. Again, it helps add warmth and harmonic depth to tracks that more often than not are recorded digitally and kept entirely in the digital realm for the whole mixing and mastering process. Its effect on the group channels tended to be fairly subtle to my ears, but here, I think it makes a noticeably pleasing difference. It seems to provide for a more open and impactful sound.
First time.
After the NLS channel strip is another plugin that does something similar. That's the Waves Kramer Master Tape, a tape machine emulator. Of note here is the 15 IPS tape speed setting, which is known for its punchy sound and full low end. Many times people tend to drive the tape levels fairly hard with these sorts of plugins, but interestingly, Miko is using pretty conservative settings, peaking around -3 decibels at the input level. I'll show you how at higher levels the sound starts to close down and the transients get smashed, providing for more of a flat sounding mix. The final plugin on the master bus is iZotope's Ozone 5. In this song, Miko is using the harmonic exciter, the stereo imaging enhancer, and the maximizer. I'll start by showing you the harmonic exciter. Exciters can give a sparkle or a shine to upper frequencies of a mix, and they can also be used in mid or even low frequencies to add a boost or presence. This plugin allows for warmth, sparkle, and shine to be added with its 4 separate bands. You can see, like a multiband compressor, it allows for independent treatment of the various bands. On the left are the various modes. Here, the tube mode is being used, which is characterized by its clear tonal excitation with an emphasis on dynamic or transient attacks. During playback, I'll solo each band so you can hear the affectation. Next is the stereo imaging enhancer. Again, it allows for independent treatment to the various bands. You'll notice in the 20 to 182 Hz range, the imaging is significantly reduced, and lesser so between 182 and 1.1 kHz. This helps focus the lows and lower mids into the center channel where they'll have the most impact. Effectively, this increases the perceived width from 1.1 kHz and up. To me, this treatment makes the mix sound a bit more focused and open. In the next and final video of this series, I'm going to break down the maximizer treatments. This is what makes the mix loud and competitive.